Hey guys, I'm Nikhil,
Hey guys, I'm Francisco.
and welcome back to another episode of Anime Hub. This time we're going to be talking about Drifters, like we discussed at the end of our Fate episode. If you haven't already watched that, please give that a listen. It was pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah, right. Before Drifters, Nikhil needed some rundown because there's a couple of things that he does not do when it comes to medium or media.
Yeah. There is
Yeah.
there is specific stuff that happened in Drifters. Specifically episode 5, minutes 22. I basically skipped 21 to minute 23. I skipped those 2 minutes. Those 2 minutes have not family friendly scenes, and that's the best way to put it.
Yeah. I mean, the scene itself was like less than 10 seconds, but Nikhil just to be on the safe side, just skip the entire portion of that
Yeah, and that's
section.
something. I guess we should reiterate this before we really start the podcast, but that is something I'm not super comfortable with, and that is something I personally refuse to watch, and it's a big reason why I don't watch shows like Berserk, even though I know objectively it's a fantastic manga, and it's an okay anime. I've heard very bad things
No,
about the
it's not
animation,
an okay anime. I mean,
but
there's the 1991s, right?
yeah, I'm not sure. I never really dabbled into it. If I were to ever consume it, it would be through manga. But
That's
I would,
correct.
I personally, yeah, that's just something I don't really fuck with, and sorry for the language, but it's just something I don't really like resonate with, and something that I personally just refuse to watch over any sort of medium of television, because I think television should be consumed by things that you want to watch versus things that you're like being made to watch, and that's a really important distinction for me. And that's just a disclaimer before we start the show. But overall, I watched the rest of it, and I literally just finished the last episode just as we were starting this. Actually, I think I like
I have to mention something, Nikhil. Did you finish the episode 12? Was it?
yeah, I have like literally 3 minutes left in the episode, but I can watch that like after this. It's not that bad.
Yeah. I don't. I mean,
It's not
the
that big of a
last three
deal.
minutes, I think, is just saying that there's gonna be more. There
Yeah.
was 3 episodes released, pretty much in OVA format that I never got around to watching because
Oh
there was
yeah,
no
I
official
actually
release.
I saw about the OVAs.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to watch it just because I after this I was gonna watch My Life as a Villainess, catch up with that. Um, but
Oh, dude, I love that show.
I might get around to doing that.
I still
Anyway,
haven't seen it, but I don't think there's an official whatever, so it's no easy way for me to see it besides pirating it. That's not something I like doing.
it's on Crunchyroll.
So the other 3 episodes are not on
Oh, the
Crunchyroll. So
OVA. Yeah, they might be on Funimation. I remember we were looking at Funimation, but I'm not sure.
yeah, we watched it through Hulu. It's available through Hulu here, if anyone's curious.
Yeah, we watched it through
It's
Hulu.
licensed by Funimation, but on Funimation
It's
they have
super weird.
extras or something. Like we couldn't.
It's super
So
weird.
strange.
Yeah, it's super weird. Even on like Hulu, they have like the Funimation opening, but then it's still
Yeah.
saying by Hulu, so it just doesn't make sense. I don't know. I think that's dumb
Whatever.
personally, but it's whatever.
It's
Regardless, we
some
can.
licensing agreement.
I mean, yeah,
Definitely.
it is what it is.
Nikhil, give everyone a rundown on what Drifters is and like again why we decided to go with Drifters after Faith.
Okay, so Drifters is a really. It's like Drifters to me is like a reverse Fate, which I think is really cool, and that was like kind of my perception about it. So in Drifters, you have people who come, and these are actual people who come to this world, this other world, where it's essentially ruled by the Ort Empire. The Ort Empire is founded by Hitler or a Hitler-esque character, but not really Hitler because there's a lot of parallels, which I will definitely touch upon later. That's something I noticed and I thought that was really cool. These drifters don't really have any special powers per se, but it's like the technology and what they bring to this world is really really unique, and that's what makes them really special in this world of like the Orc Empire and these like spellcasters and mages, for example, they don't really know how to like create like guns or bullets and stuff like that, and that's a really really important like mechanism that was used throughout the show to show that like, whoa, you had something kind of cool where you can like make bullets, and like to us it seems like an everyday object, but to them it was like new, it was cool, it was different. And the
It
show
was
touches
violent.
the violence is like crazy. But honestly, like I think it fits in the show really well based on the characters themselves, because a lot of them are based on like conquerors or people who are like nobles or people who were like up there who like were warriors, and they're not magical, and I think that's a really cool parallel between Drifters and Fate, because in Fate you were dealing a lot with like magic and whatnot. In this show there is magic, and clearly there's a lot with a lot of different things, but the magic isn't like the sole focus of the show. It's about like why the drifters are there. In fact, in episode 11 they highlight this when they're like, when I think he was going over the weird crazy dude, I don't know what his name is. He was going over,
Which one?
yeah, I think
I'm
so.
curious.
But
No, no, which one? Which one? I can't. I mean,
oh, he has
don't
the
get me wrong.
makeup on. He has like all that makeup on.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
That guy's really, really knowledgeable on drifters themselves.
Oh yeah, but like
Yeah,
in that I distinctly remember this because I just watched it. In
yeah.
they were in a council room, and like one of the guys was like, "There's no way we can predict what the drifters are doing." Like they could predict everything that was going to happen, but they were like, "We cannot predict what the drifters are going to do because they're the one random variable in this entire situation." So I think the drifters provide a really random esque, like they don't deal with magic, they don't deal with any of that stuff, but they're like themselves from their current timelines, and I think that's really cool. But more so, they bring like a very human element to a magical world, which is the complete
They
opposite of
bring.
Fate.
That's 100% true. I want to definitely focus on that. They really do bring a human element from our universe into them, and something that's unique about all the drifters is that you mentioned they're all people that are related to when war is happening within our universe. And these people that are selected, for example, Nobunaga Oda, which is an exceptionally pivotal historical figure from Japan, who almost unified all of Japan under him.
He's actually like, I remember talking to you, Francisco, about this pretty recently. I told you like I don't think I have a favorite character in the show, but honestly, the more I watch it, the more he becomes my favorite character. Just cause like one, his humor is great, but more so he's just the definition of a leader and someone who like takes charge of what he wants, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah, the representation of this Nobunaga Oda is I find it really interesting because of how different. I've never really seen much of Nobunaga Oda up until this. I knew of him. I knew of how important he is to Japan. But seeing how the author decided to depict him as a warlord, pretty much. One of my favorite lines of him were like, if you take people can live with their pride if you take their food away, and if you take their pride away, they can live with their food. Or
Oh,
like
that
by
was
their
an
food.
excellent. That was
But
in
if you
episode
take
4.
both, yeah,
Yeah, I remember I remember that scene because the way like what he said was so cool, and he was like going to the it was right before, oh my god, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. That scene
yeah.
was
That
fantastic.
what was the drifters aren't like 100%. They are not good people. They represent probably some of the worst aspects of humans, and also some of the amazing ingenuity behind humans, especially during a time of war. They're brought into this place by these characters that we don't know much about, but like obviously they're pawns on these upper figures. And it's an isekai anime, right? They're being transported to a different place. You get the drifters, and like their name, the title that they get is so cool. Just the idea of drifters. I don't know, something about that. It's like they're not, they're just drifting,
Yeah,
but like leaves
they're
going.
not of that place, or they're not of that origin.
Yeah,
They're strangers to a foreign land or something.
definitely. Yeah, that's actually the subtitle. I mean, something like that title. So it follows three main characters, and the three characters are all historical figures from Japan. People from Japan probably have a better time with the show because obviously they know these characters because it's part of their history. and and the author probably picked just likes
Wait,
who they are.
Han. Yeah, you were saying?
Yeah, so like the main character or like the main guy is not. They follow three people, right? Nobunaga Ora, which is the guy I can remember by name. The main guy who's a samurai, and then Yoichi, something like that, is a hunter, and they're like from three different eras. The main guy came before Nobunaga Ora, but Nobunaga Ora is 50 years old. The main guy is like 30 years old, and the youngest, but also the oldest, is 19 years old. What's really interesting is that the explanation that the author gives to bring these people into the universe is that right before they died or were presumed dead in like our history, they were just taken into this different land. For example, Nobunaga Ora, supposedly he burned with his castle, but in this universe, in the universe of Drifters, he was running away from it, and the next thing he knows, he's in a hallway with random doors, and so he gets taken away from our universe and placed into this one. Similar things happen to the guys. It's always like they go into this hallway with a bunch of different doors. The aesthetics of this show are also really, really interesting and cool. It comes from the same author that wrote Hellsing. So if you're familiar with Hellsing, which is about a vampire named Alucard and German Nazis coming back and starting World War III. It's kind of a wild time, but yeah, that's it's a prolific author. I also want to talk about the opposition of the Drifters, which are similar people. They're in the same situation. Like we mentioned that there's two main forces that bring these people into this fantasy universe. One of them brings the Drifters, and these people do not have magic. The other one brings the Ants, which is a title that they're given to people, and these people do have magic. And they both represent different aspects of humanity. The Drifters ended up, when they died, they felt no regret, pretty much, which is something that I feel everyone who is considered an N feels. They all feel regret if they're an N, which drives their magic or whatever. And they're super similar, but the deal with the Drifters is that they bring information with them, which is exceptionally powerful, especially because another aspect that Nobunaga Oda noticed was telecommunication devices. Such as, do you remember that scene by any chance?
Yeah, that was really cool when he was like, these people don't understand the value of having something like this in the battlefield. And
Yeah.
when they were freeing the goblins, or the dwarves.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that was really cool, and I think it's just like that fact of this can be used for something more than they think it can be used for is really interesting. With the ends, it brings up a really good question of like, do they ever think that far? Because I think the ends, like the way they died, right? Each of the ends died a very specific way, like in a matter that they were able to, they like attained magic. They didn't like inherently have it in in the other world in the previous life. So it's really interesting to see like whether they think that they can do like more advanced stuff. And I remember when you got the dude with the plane who like shot the dragons down.
That guy is so cool.
He's an interesting guy. Um,
He was from Over 1, right?
yeah, and
He
like
was like the equal.
everyone was surprised, and the ends were surprised. So like even if they come from the same era, it's really interesting to see like they don't really know if that makes sense. And they're like, I don't know. There's definitely
Like, what do you mean if they come from the same era?
one of the characters. He's not quite an end because he said like I want to do my own thing, but he knows who the huntsman dude is.
Yeah, he knows Yoichi.
Yeah.
It's probably, I mean, people from Japan probably know who Yoichi is because he's also super important in their history. I think he's his brother. I think he's the lord that Yoichi
served
worked under during his time.
Yeah, that was my perspective, my perception as well. Joan.
Yeah, it was a lord. Go on.
Joan of I mean, you also have like Joan of Arc, right? And like the whole Joan of Arc thing where she was like burned at the stake. It kind of begs the question, like, I don't know. There's just like a few things it's just interesting. It's just interesting to me. And like she was burned. It's really funny because she was prosecuted for being a witch, right? In the show,
Yeah.
and she ends up dying to fire, and then she becomes essentially. Well, if you think about it, in my opinion, she became a witch, or she became like a fire witch,
Yeah.
which I thought was like really cool. Like they kind of drew in their old lives, and they used their old lives to. They became essentially their old lives.
Yeah, their powers definitely reflect something within their lives. Every N usually it feels like every N died and fell into depravity at the moment of their death, which is unique. I think one of the only ends that might not fit the bill, or rather could do you know the last guy in episode 12 you just saw? Toshiro Hijikata,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
vice
yeah.
captain of the Shinsengumi.
Mhm.
Yeah, that guy. He looks like he's definitely a foil to the main samurai guy from Sekigahara. The fact that they both it's really interesting, the relationship. The author definitely looked into the history behind it. Toshiro the Toshiro knows who the family of the main lead is, and he has a grudge against them for some reason. Not that I'm aware of, but it's really cool because Toshiro has a unique sense of code when it comes to being a samurai, and he has a sense of honor. But the main lead, the Sekigahara guy, does whatever it takes to win. You know,
Right, yeah.
one of the moments that really drove into the fact that he just does whatever it takes to win is definitely in the beginning when he took down that knife and then he just repeatedly pulverized him with the sheath of his sword.
I love that. You were like right
Yeah.
there, you were given so much description of the character itself. Like that was so cool to like I don't think it wasn't really cool, but more so it was very like to me it was kind of insane that they did that just cuz there was so much information given right off the bat about that character.
Yeah. There's a lot of information definitely done throughout the actions of these people and how their actions within their timeline are definitely morally good,
Yeah.
but if taken out of context, and especially with us, when we see them nowadays, we're just looking at them and like these guys are absolute monsters. Oh my god,
Yeah, I mean
how
like
could
there were
yeah
that there were none of them are good people. Like it's really hard to root for like one person in this show. Is what I kind
yeah
of
ethically it's difficult. I do very much. It's fun to just watch these three people, the drifters from the three main leads, because effectively what Nobunaga Oda is trying to do is world domination in this new universe of theirs, because they're not trying to, they're pawns, right, in the two main figureheads or
yeah.
whatever, but we don't even know what their plans are. But the guy brings them over and he's gambling on the fact that they're just this random variable, and effectively they're going to go up against the ants because what they both desire, one of the group desires conquest, which is from Nobunaga Oda's group, from zero to just having everything on it, and it's amazing to see the progression throughout the story.
Oh yeah.
It's like
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. Yeah, that progression was pretty
and
intense to see.
yeah, it's really cool. And the other thing that's super interesting is the relationship that they see between the elves and the dwarves, and that racial tension that's going on, which is 100% also happened because of Hitler. You mentioned the Orthe Empire, right? The
Okay,
Orthe
so
Empire was yeah. I think you can follow this up. You wanted to talk about it.
this is something that I thought was really interesting because like the Hitler in the Orts Empire and the Hitler that we know are two very different people. They are different people, but like clearly the dude was Hitler to some extent, but he was not like Hitler in terms of idealism, and I think that's a really important distinction to note, at least from my perspective, because I clearly remember this in episode 5 or 6. They were talking about Hitler and that character of Hitler, and then they said okay, he's not really a bad like what he wanted for the Ort Empire was for everyone to kind of live in harmony and
To
like
be unified,
to
yeah.
be unified exactly. But what
But
happened was and this is intrinsically human nature by the way. I don't think that this is anyone's fault. I think that humans are just geared towards doing this. The humans ended up taking over the demi-humans and the people that they saw subservient and they were like, yeah, we're gonna be the best now. You guys can become slaves. That's pretty much what happened. So
Yeah.
and I again, the reason I say this is human nature is because history has literally repeated itself. Our history, like real life history, has kind of proven that has been the case over and over and over again with slavery in America, slavery in Africa, slavery in Europe, slavery in Asia.
Slavery
It's
in
just
the
it's just
ancient
it's
world.
and this like the fact like racism. Racism is the number one example of this, and so it's just human nature, honestly, at this point. And so I don't like that's why I can't blame anyone. But I think the ideal that Hitler and the Old Empire proposed, no matter what would have happened, it would have led to that because of the way that he wanted things to be. I just like the
Yeah.
way the structure was already formed, and then you bring a bunch of humans into this, and you're like, all right, we're gonna give you power to change the world. You can't do that. Like that, it's just that's just you're just giving them fodder for chaos, essentially.
Especially someone like Hitler who has a history of this thing.
Oh yeah, but what was even more interesting, and the reason I don't say he was actually Hitler, do you know the Jewish Star?
I'm familiar with it. Yeah, the 6 point star, the David star, whatever.
Yeah. So that was actually so every time we see like a scene of Hitler, like the Old Empire Hitler, we see a scene of the Jewish Star. Like we see a picture of the Jewish Star somewhere in that like I don't know if you noticed this. I thought it was really interesting. Like within like a 2 minute gap, like when they introduce the Hitler, we see a glimpse of like the Jewish Star somewhere. And that's the reason I say he's different. I think because like one, his ideals were different, but two, the Jewish Star definitely represents a lot more than like Judaism, right? It was like a sense, at least in our history, it was it was a sense of oppression and like there's a lot that surrounds it. It's a very very powerful symbol, and the fact that he uses it to represent the Old Empire, it's kind of insane. Like um I
Yeah, it's
like
definitely. Go ahead.
my I'm really curious as to how like why that's the case and why like how you can kind of relate that like the Jewish Star to the Old Empire in some way and how do they connect? And that was like a question I think I asked myself throughout the show. Like how do these two things connect and like in the Old Empire what did I notice that was similar to maybe like Jewish struggles or like Judaism in general? I thought it was just interesting.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a liberty from the author when it comes to a historical figure that is Hitler, and that might be stemmed off the. I know when I was younger, I used to hear this conspiracy theory or whatever that Hitler has Jewish roots and whatnot.
Hmm.
You may be familiar with this.
I do,
I know
yeah.
I've definitely heard about it,
Yeah, I
and
heard
that
about it.
might have been something that the author himself heard and probably weaved it into it just because it adds an extra layer of interest.
Yeah,
I
that
would
would
like,
actually be really
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. The other thing that we should probably mention is that this the Hitler thing, the fact that the Order Empire was made 50 years ago, the drifters are brought into this universe from different points of their life, effectively the end of their lives, but they're brought into this universe from different time periods in our universe. And they're not all brought at the same time. Like you mentioned, the World War I flyer jet guy, or what's his the airplane guy from World War I that appeared like from
Yeah,
a
yeah,
cave,
yeah.
and then yeah, and then continued to shoot down wyverns.
Yeah.
That guy was brought from World War I, and he was just brought later on the story. They're brought into different points within the story depending on what the guy feels is necessary, or we don't even know what he's thinking. But Hitler was brought 50 years prior, and he made the Order Empire for humanity. I do feel that in principle, the fact that he continued to decide to oppress someone is consistent with his character, and him unifying humanity again is well. I definitely don't personally. I feel like Hitler isn't someone who is tactically a genius. People can disagree with me. I'm sure historians can disagree with me. They definitely know more. But something else that's really interesting is that after Hitler the Drifter Hitler unified the Order Empire, he killed himself again. Effectively, Hitler himself is just a joke character from how the author put it off. I know it was really funny when we learned who actually unified the Order Empire, and it's only done from a portrait, and it's because there's the iconic mustache that he has.
Yeah.
If you remember.
Yeah. I saw that and
Yeah.
I was like, no way.
Yeah, it's like a really funny moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Drifters is definitely one of the more different isekais out there.
Yeah, it's really unique in a lot of aspects. So we talked a lot about the story, but I think we should touch on the animation. The animation, in my opinion, is probably one of the most unique animations I've seen in an anime this year. Because most anime are very, like, with the except, okay, Monogatari doesn't count, but it was, the way it was animated, it was almost like everything was very accentuated. The eyes, like, whenever they widened their eyes, it was, like, really wide. Like, everything was, like, really, like, boom, like, in your face. And the smiles. This is something we need to talk about.
Yeah, that's the author. The author, that's definitely his style. The eyes and the smiles are very unique. And
Yes.
it also appears in his other work, Hellsing.
Yeah, it was a little frightening, but like it was weird because like the way they smiled, and then it was like right after you get that like really creepy dark smile from like Oda, for example, then immediately it would turn into a joke. Like literally that next line would be something really funny, and then like it would like they would like meme around. I thought that was kind of, I thought the way they paralleled that was pretty good because it wasn't like, of course the show is not horror. It's not supposed to be scary. It's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be lighthearted either. It's a very dark show in a lot of aspects. But the way they played off their humor, it was dark humor, and I think they nailed that because the humor fit in the in the very dark in like the darkest points of the show a lot of the times. So you saw some like when it was like when it got really heavy for the viewer, the show like it almost felt like the show knew that it was really heavy and was like, okay, we're gonna spoon feed you some funny stuff before we give you more of heavy stuff. And I feel like that 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 pacing was really good. Um, I don't even know it was pacing. I think it was just like the way the show was set up, where you had
I
like.
definitely think that it's part of the theme that the author is trying to give off. That humans in general are able to do some malicious things, but regardless of the situation, throughout most of it, they can find some kind of catharsis within whatever they are, you know.
Yeah, that was.
And it's like accentuated from these characters who do some really crazy things, but then they can still like in the end of the day they can joke around, you know. Like things can get pretty dark, but
I mean, yeah,
but you can still have fun.
Like,
it's crazy.
I think a big part of that was I remember when they stormed the tower, and then after they find out what was happening to the Elvish girls, they bring all those people down and they just point blank kill all of them, like just boom. That was really dark, and like I personally was very happy about that. But I mean it's
people.
It's supposed to be,
sure.
But I think but then right after that they made a joke, like literally right after that they started making jokes, and then I think that was played really well, right? Because you got like a really dark, intense, really like gruesome moment, but then you got that like sense of okay, that we can still be human. Like we're gonna do some inhuman acts, but we can still be human. So they played that off really well.
Yeah, everything in the show is pretty morally gray when it comes to these guys. I love the main lead. When they were raiding the castle and they successfully got inside and they freed the dwarves, right? But they were really freaking hungry. And the guy decides, you know what? Let's put a pause on our siege to feed our boys.
Yeah.
And then we'll get back to it. And it was such an intimidating act because he goes up to the people who are still like holding off the last bit that they can, right, from the opposition side within their tower, and he's eating. He's like, "All right, guys, we're gonna eat, but after we eat, we're gonna go in there and kill you."
Yeah, so you should probably run now. I thought it was hilarious.
It's super funny.
The main character is like, honestly, like he's the most ideal warrior if you think about it, right? Like I think in a lot of discussions I've had with I don't mean to bring politics into this, but in theory Bernie Sanders would be the most ideal president. The main character in this show just feels like the most ideal warrior. And the reason I say that is cuz his values are just fantastic. Like he's not
For
really a
the
bad
battlefield,
person. Huh?
for the battlefield, his values are just perfect.
Yeah, he
One of
doesn't
his,
like unnecessarily kill people. Like he's made that very clear. He's like, I'll just take the commander's head. You guys can run if you want. I don't care. I just want one person. Um, and then like he
that's his
refuses
like
to
repeated
harm
line.
women and children. Like he's the perfect warrior. It's really funny.
Yeah, he's also someone who doesn't want power, which is which was very apparent in the first episode. Actually,
Yeah, he was like, no,
he
I can
stayed
do it.
behind so that his uncle could go back, and if his uncle lives, that's considered a win for the entirety of their clan. You know,
Yeah,
so he is the perfect warrior. He was because this parallels what happens to Nobunaga Ora. Nobunaga Ora technically was transferred over here thinking that his son betrayed him, right?
yeah,
But he sees this guy and he from his actions he knows that he would never betray someone that he considers his ally, you know.
yeah, exactly. I think that makes it really unique, and I don't know. I think it's cool. I think he's like a good main character. He has his flaws and they're very apparent, but he also has his pluses and they're also very apparent. He's a very likable character all in all. I just like,
Yeah,
or like, he's likable for his values. I don't think I still stand by the fact that every character in the show is like inherently not very likable because of their actions. But
yeah.
I think that out of all of them, he's the most just, and so he's easily the one people would be like. It makes sense. He's the main character. He's that one character that's like, okay, all these guys are bad, but there's one character pretty good, so we'll take
Yeah.
that. I respect that, honestly. Like it's whatever. I get it. I think he's a great character. I think it's really well written
He's a
too.
respectable guy.
And like,
One of the another. Go on.
oh, I just like how you don't really need to know a lot of his backstory to really like him. I think with a lot of characters, like it involves them having a really fleshed out backstory and they need to be this and be that. This show is literally just about the drifters being badasses. That's what this show is, in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah,
like that's a big
it feels
part of this show. So it's like he can get away with it.
if you're into a bunch of action movies, like in Western American action movies, I think you would enjoy Drifters a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Actually, I completely agree with that. If you like action adventure. If you like old kung fu films is a good example. If you liked, yeah, there's a lot of like different ones. But yeah, if you like Western films in general, I love action Western films. I think Drifters is
yeah.
perfect.
It's not like Fast and Furious. Fast and Furious is an amazing action series overall. But the thing with Fast and Furious is that people say you can just turn off your brain, you know. But the benefit of Drifters is that you can still have your brain turned on because there's a lot of things in the background that are happening that does reward you if you pay attention to them.
Yeah,
A lot
it's
of the, for
small
example,
things.
one of the most interesting things about the Drifters or the Drifter series is that you can try and trying to figure out who the ends are, like who they're supposed to be historically, you know. For
Yeah,
example, the main antagonist, it's pretty apparent. The story isn't trying to hide who that person is. Like you can pretty much figure it out by episode 2. You know,
hmm.
I mean, how long did it take for you to figure out who that person was?
What, the guy under the mask or the hood?
Uh, the guy in the robe,
The
who
guy in the
was
robe.
leading the end.
I think it took me. I didn't actually know who it was by episode 2. Now that you mention it.
Yeah, that's fair.
It took me a while. It actually took me a while. What the heck?
Hmm?
Yeah, it took me a long
The shows,
time.
yeah, the hints are pretty apparent. If you're looking out, you can actually tell who this person is. It's not trying to hide it. It's whatever. But it's an interesting person for an antagonist, you know?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think.
Because like the moral, go on.
No, no, you were saying keep going, keep going. I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, the morals for the antagonist for the number one end
Yeah.
Effectively, he's trying to unify everything that isn't human, you know.
Right.
And he's providing them with agriculture, and he's providing them with arithmetic, and he's teaching them these kind of things, and he's giving them these values that aren't short-term solutions, but they're long-term solutions. One of the things that was mentioned is like, if you can create all of this food, why don't you just give them this? Why are you teaching them agriculture? And this end guy responds with, "There's going to be a point where I'm not gonna be alive, and I need to teach them how." It's like what was that one parallel? It's like you teach a man to fish, and they can feed themselves for days and years.
Yeah, so
It's
you
effectively
can
the same thing.
yeah, you can teach a man, you can get a fish, or you can get a fish for a man or something, and like he won't be hungry for a day, but if you teach a man to fish, he'll never be hungry for, I don't know. I forgot what it was. But yeah, I see what you're
I
saying.
mean, you got the gist of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah. So it's also a really good antagonist, and the fact that if you compare those values and you compare them to the drifters, the big bad N is definitely, I can definitely get behind his cause, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he, uh, he was, he's not like the, he's not a bad person, right? Because like at the end of the day, I think within the first 3 episodes, we kind of see how the show treats, or like the humans treat the people who are not humans, and it's very obvious, and it's very easy to capitalize on that. That's what he did, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
Any revolutionist throughout history has capitalized on things that, or on oppression. Like it's like MLK, Gandhi, Nelson Mandela. They've led revolutions based on oppression and oppression of people. It's a powerful thing to get behind, man, and like it makes sense.
Yeah, it's very fitting. There's one more thing I want to mention about the main lead that I remember, which is why I would suggest the Japanese dub, so English subtitles.
Mhm.
Even though the English dub is actually pretty alright for what it is, but there's this one scene that is emphasized a lot more if it's Japanese. So when the guy comes to this universe for the first time,
oh, I know what scene
and then
you're talking about.
Do you remember this scene?
Yeah, I know what scene you're gonna talk about, but keep going.
Yeah, okay. In which case, yeah, you can say that.
No. You keep going.
Alright. So effectively, he comes, right? But because he only knows Japanese, he doesn't understand what other people are saying. So when he starts fighting a guy, and he starts beating him down, he's like, "If you can't speak Japanese,
just
die. Just die."
I love that scene so much.
Which is like really funny, but also really xenophobic.
I thought that was hilarious. Dude, oh my god, that was one of my favorite scenes. But as soon as I saw that, I was laughing. I was laughing. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was so good. And dude, it makes sense though, right? When you think about it, just cause like he's a character that's grown up, like he was born and raised in Japan. He knows no other place in the world that like he only knows Japan. So like you hear other people speaking different languages, and he's like, "What the hell? Like this should not exist." So I'm like, "Yeah, I get it, man. I get it." Personally, I was like, "Yeah, I get it, man. Like you do you. We booing out here." Thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, it was definitely funny. There's a lot of good points in this series that are really entertaining. It's a shame that no new season has come out. It's released on 2016. That was a while back.
I saw some news that it was supposed to come out in 2021, the next season.
I mean, I would be happy if it comes out 2021.
Honestly, with the whole Corona thing, though, if they were in production, it might have gotten pushed. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping we still get like a soon release date. Nothing has been confirmed about the second season, so we'll see. But yeah, it's all up in the air. Something I really want to touch upon, by the way, before we start wrapping up, is the whole parallel between the guy who's in the desk and the girl who's the devil. That was a really cool parallel, because like you see like it's the whole angel and devil kind of like battle, which I think is really cool. But more so, if I don't if you so this is going back to your point, Francisco, when you said the show really rewards you if you pay attention, but you don't really have to. But if you do, it rewards you. A really really cool point that I noticed was the man who in the desk. He had an American patch on his jacket. He had the American flag on his jacket. I don't know how, I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's supposed to insinuate anything, but the fact that he did makes it very interesting to me. And the whole way that his character is played off as is a 1980s
Bureaucrat, no?
yeah, 1970s 1980s bureaucrat in America. I would say someone in New York, someone who is a high profile person in New York. That was my perception. You really saw
He
that.
smokes too, you know?
Huh? He's what?
He smokes too, so that's
He does, yeah.
thinking about it.
So I'm getting not maybe not 70s 80s. I'm getting more of a 50s 60s vibe from him. And I don't know. I thought that was really cool. Obviously that has to mean something, and I'm really
Yeah,
curious as to what
actually,
that means.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what that means.
I think what I got off him is I feel like he's a drifter too, but he's got in a weird position. I don't know if he's a drifter with a name, right? I think he might just be a drifter from a specific time for the aesthetics that the author liked, and he wanted to give him this position. Well, this is like a random theory. Who knows if it's been answered in the manga, you know?
Yeah, it
But
could.
I got the vibe that he was a drifter.
It could be that he was a drifter, but this position was kind of forced upon him, and he didn't want to take it originally. So he was this war, figuring out, making good prevail essentially, and with the drifter's help is his only way out. That could be a thing, and I don't know. The devil is also really interesting in this show because she's not the devil, but she's like a representation of that, the quote unquote devil. She's an interesting character because she's we don't really know anything about her, but we know what she wants. And
she brings the ends, right? And the guy on the desk brings the drifters.
Yeah, and those are their two main functions. So
Yeah,
you could parallel them to both yin and yang or devil and angel. There's definitely that comparison. I'm really curious to see more of who they are because I think they're going to be really interesting characters that created this world. The question is how.
Yeah, maybe, who knows? We didn't really speak much about the other characters. Kid Cassidy is in here. Billy the Kid.
He is Billy the Kid.
Yeah.
Also the Roman dude. I forgot his name.
Scipio. I know.
Yeah,
Scipio.
He's a really 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 famous character.
Yeah.
He's a cool dude.
He had some really interesting moments too because he's old and he looks like he's senile. There's some things that he provides.
He's OP though. He's insanely OP. You remember that one scene? Oh my god. The scene that I was okay, this dude is serious. When the main character he bum rushes him down the line with the sword drawn, and then he goes up to strike, and then Scipio takes out a blade and just points at his eye. You don't even see it. He just does it. And that moment the entire thing just freezes. That was so cool.
Yeah.
I love that scene.
It was the author's really respecting the position that Scipio has within our universe.
Mm-hmm.
He's old, right? So people definitely look down on him. People around him are ages and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I think the author does a good job at representing how impressive this man is, even though he might not seem impressive, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's moments where Scipio, because of his old age, he can't hold his pee in.
Yeah.
So he's just pissing.
Yeah.
Right? And it's everyone laughs at him, but we know who he is.
Yeah.
Not only that, but his arch rival, which, I can't believe we don't know who this guy. To know who okay, so Scipio was part. See, this is what we get for not being history majors, you know?
Yeah. He was the guy that Scipio wanted to. Oh damn, I don't remember. I have to look it up. But yeah, I know who you're referring to. I can look it up really quick if you want. Let me.
Yeah, let's look it up. Cause It was during the Roman period, obviously. Scipio was during then. But this, I really like the relationship.
Yeah, it's really candid. It's like
They respect each other as generals,
but they're rivals, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Rival generals.
But they still respect each other. It's like
There's definitely a good emotion that comes off of us knowing who Scipio is and how impressive he was, and then everyone around him just laughing at him.
But his rival is like the only
moments.
person who's like, yo, this dude's insane.
And then you mentioned that Scipio has slight moments where you can actually see how threatening he is.
Yeah, he has those moments where he's like, yes, I am a badass, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, and it's exceptionally rewarding because of the juxtaposition between how he was acting before to how he is now. Nobunaga Oda even acknowledged him when he was trying to figure out a way to turn the battle.
Yeah.
And then Scipio did this one random thing with grapes, and he got them together, and then he smashed them, and which gave Nobunaga Oda an idea, pretty much, which turned the tide of the war.
Yeah.
Was that Nobunaga Oda wondering, who is this guy? Because he has.
Wait, is it Hannibal?
Yeah, it's Hannibal. That's who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty insane. Also, like, shout out to Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Like, okay, so Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is my favorite Western movie I think I've ever watched. I'm not a big fan of the Western genre, but that movie, just that movie alone, is really like really good. I personally love it, and I would recommend it to anyone who likes Western stuff. So like when they introduced Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, I was like, yes, like this is perfect. I don't know, I was really happy about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool characters, man. If you're a history buff, you would enjoy Faith. You would also enjoy this. And if you're not, but you kind of like history and you just want to see badass people fight or just interact with each other, you can just give the show a watch. I very much like it. I think it's underrated, personally, which is why I wanted Nikhil to watch it, and I'm glad Nikhil likes it to the point that he mentioned that you would even watch season 2 if it came out. No?
Oh, 100%. It's so cool. It definitely like had me going. I only watched like 2 to 3 episodes a day, unfortunately, due to a really tight schedule last week. But I honestly, if I could have binged it, I would have binged it in one day easily. It's a really digestible show, like in some aspects, but it's a show that'll definitely keep you going. Like you're definitely gonna want to see like what happens next, what happens next, what happens next. It's really fun. The action component is great. It's if you like action at all, if you liked Fate, if you liked like any action type anime, any shonen type anime, I think you'll like Drifters a lot. It's just like this is more like in shonen like the Fate. Okay, my perspective is this. Fate is like the PG version of Drifters, and Drifters is like the I would say the rated R version of Fate. What do you think about it? Just cause like it gets a lot more serious. There's a lot more moments where it's a lot more human, and there's a lot of aspects of where you can be like, whoa, this is taken right out of human history, and it is. But I think that's what makes a show so enjoyable, because it has those kind of aspects and like relatability to some extent. So yeah, do you have anything to add to that? And yeah, do you have any thoughts, Francisco?
Yeah, I think I mean we've been mentioning all these good aspects of Drifters, but there's like one thing I really didn't like about it. And there's a portrayal of an LGBTQ member, and it's really stereotypical. I just okay, so like we're gonna get it off, right? It's a very fruity character. It's like 100% like not cis, right? They're not binary. And this character, while within the universe, very capable, right? It's not the author doesn't make them a complete joke character. If anything,
owns 1/3 of the Ord Empire. Right? Yeah, it's pretty capable.
Yeah, this character is really capable. Like, without a doubt, they're not a joke. They know what they're talking about. They are an exceptionally pivotal player within the entire strategy that happens around it, and it's threatening, right? It's not someone that you can just toss aside, but I don't know if it's a negative or not, but like the way that they portray their sexuality or like the implied sexuality is very like okay. I want to say fruity just because they're definitely colorful, but
It was
I
very
don't know if it's
stereotypically generic.
it's an issue, but
I personally didn't really have a problem with that because that wasn't the focus of the show, and I try to pay
yeah,
attention to a lot of other stuff. But I agree, and that's something that I think is an issue not only with this show but in the anime community as a whole. Um, that's something that I think needs to hopefully be addressed in the future. I think we see this a lot in shows that either have like asexual characters, aka Land of the Lustrous, or shows where like you have stuff like this. And I think that it's important that we recognize them and that hopefully the anime industry in a way also recognizes them and makes the characters a lot more like
yeah,
it doesn't matter.
maybe having a sensitivity reader or something would have helped the author, but who knows? Maybe this isn't even a bad portrayal.
I mean,
Maybe I'm just
personally,
being
personally,
over.
the only author I know that has done it very effectively is Oda. Um, Oda killed it, and honestly, with in that aspect, I think he made it really well. Like he is still like somewhat stereotypical, but like
Oh, with Bon Clay, right?
yeah, with Bon Clay and Bon Clay's like master and everything, like there were some cool characters, man. They were really cool,
Yeah,
and like the stuff they did and like how powerful they were, like you couldn't help but respect them, and it was kind of sick to see.
yeah.
Um,
That's what I was actually another reason why I was having a difficult time. Maybe I was just seeing something that isn't there, because Bon Clay is also pretty flamboyant, right?
yeah,
And definitely because of their sexuality or whatever. But maybe that's just the character there. They just want to be like that. Maybe I'm just looking and there's absolutely nothing wrong with this.
yeah.
Who
I
knows?
mean,
Because
like,
even it's not like the character within Drifters is a joke.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
also
exactly.
so who knows? Maybe there's nothing there.
Maybe I think it's just a stereotypical thing that happens in every anime. And it's really easy to skimp on. And you bring up a really good point. That's something that hopefully the anime industry as a whole recognizes and fixes in the future. But I think this anime he wasn't the focus. The focus was definitely on the other characters and the world building aspect and the drifters, and so it's really easy to just kind of skip that. So it's definitely worth
Yeah,
noting, if at all. And
I think with that we can just wrap it up and just
yeah,
talk about what we've been watching.
yeah. So that's all we have for this episode. Drifters overall, great anime. I think both me and Francisco can definitely recommend it to people if you're interested. Just be aware that there is a scene that may not be comfortable for everyone, and I think that you should just be aware of that. Otherwise, great anime. Very good, very action packed. There's a lot to it. There's just like you can. It's one of those anime that you can like kind of turn your brain off and watch, or you can turn it on and it'll reward you even more for doing that. And just having that kind of like parallel is really fun for any viewer because any type of viewer can now watch the show, and that makes it very consumable for anyone. And that's great. And I personally think every show should have that. So great show overall. Would recommend it. I'm looking forward to the next season. And yeah, we'll wrap it up with what we're watching or what we're gonna watch and what's coming up for
Yeah,
the future of this podcast. So Francisco, you want to talk about what you're watching?
yeah. I mean, nothing much has changed since the last episode. I'm still watching everything that you're watching. The
Yeah.
things you recommended, Kakushi Goro, for example.
Oh,
But something that
Kakushi Goto.
I
Oh
ended up
my
picking up.
god, so good. That anime
Yeah,
will always just be. It's right here for me. It's so good. I love it.
yeah, very good father-daughter relationship.
I
Still,
love it.
still as good. I think I haven't seen the episode for this week, so hopefully I can see it tomorrow or something.
Would
But
highly
another
recommend.
anime. There's a second season within this. I think we're still in spring 2020, right?
Yeah.
For the season. Okay, so in this season, Ascendance of a Bookworm got their season 2, so it's currently
Yo,
airing,
I
and I love
was
that anime.
okay. I was actually going to ask you if I should watch that or not, cause I was looking at seasonal stuff, and I was like, oh my god, because I remember when Ascendance of the Bookworm came out, and I was thinking of watching it, but I never did. So
I like it. One of the main
take a
themes,
look.
and it's a lot more prolific in season 2, because this is an isekai, right? But
Mm-hmm.
another thing is that, like Drifters, something that's really unique about isekai is that some authors capitalize on is the information that the protagonist brings to the new universe
Mm-hmm.
and how they can capitalize it. But this author goes a bit takes capitalism, and it's pretty much capitalism good dot anime. That's what it is.
That's pretty funny. That's a hot take, but
Yeah,
I will
you'll see it,
I will
because
take a
it's
look.
definitely about bringing intellectual property, like how to make a pizza, how to make shampoo, how to make hairpins or whatever that still hasn't been developed in this universe,
Mm-hmm.
and then selling the rights to it so that she can eventually get enough monetary good to start publishing books
That's pretty funny.
or start making books, because she's obsessed with literature and she wants to bring that good to the universe, but not to mostly just for herself. She just wants to read stories, and to get that she needs to get capital.
Mm-hmm.
And effectively, as she's getting this, she's providing these goods for the other civilians in there.
Yeah.
And it's just she's she's inherently selfish, but like her selfishness is for the better good, you know.
That's
So
actually
effectively,
really
it's showing you the better side of capitalism.
That's funny. I might take a look at it.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Um,
really lighthearted too.
that's actually really nice. Definitely after May 15th, after school ends, I have like 3 weeks to kill, so I'll be watching quite a bit
Yeah,
of shows then. Let's see.
yeah. Besides that one, I was also watching, which you mentioned in the episode because I suggested it to you, the Otome Isekai one, the villainous one. All routes lead to doom.
Yeah, I was
That
gonna
was
start watching that actually right after Drifters. I'm probably gonna start watching it, I think, tomorrow. I'll probably watch the first episode.
Yeah, I really like that one. And it's there's a genre within the manga industry that hasn't made its way to the anime industry yet.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the first adaptation of that genre,
Interesting.
which is when you get isekai, which is a female lead gets sent into the universe of a video game that she played, and that video game is a dating sim, pretty much, you know.
So
So
yeah,
she
it
gets
should be
sent there as one of the
interesting.
characters, and she knows the history of that game because she played it.
That's funny. Oh wait, yo, I might take a
It's
look.
yeah, I like it. It's underrated as well in this season, I believe.
Oh, that's
And
pretty
the
interesting.
main lead is exceptionally likable as a person.
Okay.
If Drifter shows like some of the more nastier sides of humanity, this person shows like what you can possibly be at someone's best. Like they're effectively a saint, pretty much.
Oh, okay. Oh, I mean, I'll
Yeah.
definitely watch it. I intend to watch the first episode tomorrow, and I'll let you know how that goes. It should be interesting.
So those are the two that I caught up with
Nice.
this two weeks or so. What about you, man?
Oh, let's see. I have been watching the same thing since last episode, pretty much. The new episode of yesterday. Not really feeling it. I will continue
What
to
episode?
watch the show, to its end because I'm the type of person that if I drop it, I'll drop it for good. So I'm very I should finish it. Other than that, my life as a villainess, I will obviously start picking up. Um, after once school ends, I have a huge list. I'm going to watch Gintama. That is probably the one I am the most excited about. It's a show that I've been putting off for the better part of a year now, and I am done putting it off. And so, pretty much the day school ends when I intend to start like binging it hard. So I'm very excited
That's
for
a
that.
lot of episodes.
Yeah,
There's a,
yeah, it
that
is.
Yeah, all things considered, there's a lot that we can discuss within Gintama.
There's so
I don't know.
much, and I'm looking forward to it. Honestly, I think that's gonna be an adventure. I'm excited. I Yeah, I think Gintama will be really fun. Uh, I'm also watching the Clone Wars. I know it's not anime, but
That's good.
I mean
It's a good show, man.
I cannot recommend this arc enough. I think it's beyond incredible. I point blank refuse to spoil it, but please watch it. It's so good. It's so good. Uh, the new season of last episode of Westworld actually came out today. I'm gonna be watching that here pretty soon. I'm gonna catch up. I didn't watch the last two episodes, but so far the show has been fantastic. They've been killing this last season. Westworld is really dark, really dark. It's not an anime either. It's a live action show dealing with philosophy, AI. So if you're into either of those, or you like tech and philosophy, perfect show. It's really dark, and it's like it really makes you question your life, and I think that's why for me it's one of the best shows I think I've ever watched, because it really makes you think like, what is the purpose of my existence? And any show that can do that, to me, and this is like a personal thing, automatically makes it to like that S tier of like, oh my god, this show's insane. So would recommend it. I would always recommend it. I think it's a fantastic show. It'll make you think. It's not a show that you can 100%. It's not a show that you can just sit down and watch. You have to like sit down and pay like completely full attention to it. You have to give it what it deserves, and that's like a lot. And you have to pay attention to the detail, and there's a lot to like really think about. But trust me, it's worth it. Other than that, nothing much. I mean, just watching the same shows. Looking forward to what's coming up next. Waiting for that new other half of Haikyuu. Oh, I didn't mention Ahiro no Sora last time, and I am still watching that. Yeah, it's the basketball one. And like, a small disclaimer about this one. I get that sports anime are not everyone's like cup of tea, and I agree with that. Like, it's not super fun to watch a bunch of sports anime. The only reason I would say give Ahiro no Sora a try, and I'm not gonna recommend it because the pacing is terrible, like point blank, it's terrible. But the animation is really good, and then the story actually simulates real basketball extremely well. It's not like Kuroko's where like they're gods and they just
Yeah,
boom
Kuroko's
boom
definitely
boom.
one of
It's They're
the
just
lesser.
superheroes. They're not really basketball players. But Ahiro no Sora actually simulates real basketball extremely well. Like the pressure, like when you miss a basket, like what happens, what like goes through your head, and like getting into that game feel. It's really good at that. And the pacing is not the best. And that's why I don't recommend it because it's really
Yeah,
off-putting. It's really slow. But the animation, OST, and the overall show is pretty good. The story is very fleshed out. It's very heartwarming. It's decent
it's
to watch. So if you want to catch up on
really
26 episodes, you have time to like catch up. I
how
really
many
recommend it.
episodes?
It's 26 episodes. I started watching it when it came out, so I've been watching it since like October. So it's been a while. But if you want to catch up, I go for it. It's not bad.
Hopefully it gets the entire adaptation, from the
Yeah,
source material.
I hope so too. I think they're doing it justice so far. It's just extremely slow, and I know a lot of viewers are complaining about that. Overall,
Yeah.
it's not
Pacing is
bad.
also something that's super subjective, so who knows? Maybe you'd enjoy it or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's slower and it simulates real basketball really well. So if you like that, then you might like it. I personally like it. I enjoy it because the characters are really fleshed out and there's a lot of like emotional significance to each like why they're playing basketball, which I think is really cool. So yeah, give it a try. It's not for everyone. If you don't like it, drop it. If you want to continue it, continue it.
Yeah, man. One of my friends, you mentioned Haikyuu. He recently started watching Haikyuu, which is a really apt moment because he recently graduated with a mechanical engineering, but his heart has always been in playing soccer,
Mhm.
and he made it an attempt, right, for I think 6 months that he would try getting in shape, and he would go to Spain and
Oh my god.
apply and hopefully get drafted into a club or something like that.
Oh my god, that's
Yeah,
really hard.
it was crazy. I was like, "Are you sure about this?" He was like, "Yeah, for sure." But due to COVID-19, he decided that, you know what? I guess it's time for me to apply for jobs with my engineering degree. Oh my god.
We gotta blame COVID for this one. That's pretty
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, so he sadly had to let go of his dream or whatever. He's definitely gonna continue playing sports, right? But he has a huge love for sports, and watching IQ, he really enjoyed it. He caught up. He was really disappointed for the fact that he watched it and then he learns that there's a second court happening in a couple of months from now.
Yeah, the wait is brutal. Haikyuu definitely,
Yeah.
like, I'm not gonna lie, like, makes me really pumped to play, like, sports. I'm a big Ultimate Frisbee player. I love Frisbee. I've started to do conditioning for Frisbee myself. And so, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, you put on the Haikyuu soundtrack and you're like, I feel like then you start getting in the zone, you know? It's crazy. And you're like, and then you get all pumped up and you're like, ready to go. I don't know. Haikyuu's good, man. Haikyuu's good.
Yeah, it's a good representation of all the positive aspects of sports and sportsmanship, what it means to be in a team. You know,
Oh, yeah.
the weight and youth overall, using your body, understanding that you're an animal and sometimes your body needs to exercise or
Yeah.
just do physical activity.
If you
It's
like
very
that,
important for your
Run with the
health, guys.
Wind, fantastic anime for that. It's one of my favorite sports anime because it doesn't feel like a sports anime, but it deals with all the things you just said and more. So, I recommend it.
That's a jogging one or running one, right?
Yeah, it's about running. I love that. Oh my god, I love Run with the Wind. I finished that show and then I just ended up like literally that day I ran 3 miles like literally right after that. I just like
Yeah,
got up and
sports
ran.
anime.
It
Mm,
really gets me there.
Sports anime is definitely very positive. I think out of many anime, that's if you end up watching a sports anime, it could change your life. I know volleyball, for example, has risen up in numbers that people are participating over in not only Japan but even in the West.
Oh yeah, that's not surprising. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the sports anime or quote unquote anime I ended up reading the manga that I read was Slam Dunk, which is considered one of the greatest
It's like the
sports
greatest
manga.
basketball anime, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, something like that. It's given the honor of having that title, the greatest sports manga anime.
Yeah, it's really good. Slam Dunk's a classic, definitely.
Yeah, it's a classic, and I enjoyed reading it. It's also, I think, people, I like it, man. The ending, people had issues with it for being anticlimactic, but I feel like it was really interesting. Maybe one day you can read it and we can get into it. I can reread it.
Yeah, I should read it. I have a lot on my reading list right now. I have Black Clover. I want to catch up with Vinland Saga. And then I was gonna read a few other stuff. I know. I have to watch like The New World. I have to watch Gintama. I have to watch. I have so much on my plate in terms of manga and anime right now. I have to still catch up with Attack on Titan. And then yeah, I think that's about it for that. Before we go, our next 3 episodes, and this is a forewarning to everyone. So Francisco and I are huge One Piece stans. So we are going to be doing. Wait, what?
You're gonna mention the One Piece fan or something?
Yeah. So you and I are huge One Piece stans, obviously. So we're gonna be doing for the rest of summer. We're gonna be having a One Piece kind of trilogy. So we're gonna break down One Piece into 3 different segments, and we're gonna talk about each segment for each episode. And this is just a forewarning for you guys, because we're gonna be throwing a lot of One Piece content at you now, for the next 3 months. So, this is just a word of warning, for you guys. We'll try to sprinkle in some like lighthearted like mini episodes in between, so it's not super overwhelming. But for the most part, like our main content will be One Piece for the next 3 months. We love One Piece, and we hope you guys will enjoy us talking about it. We're really excited for this one. This has been in the works for God knows how long. I think like when we started this podcast, we knew we were gonna do One Piece, and I think in November, was it November? We discussed having like a 3 month like One Piece thing.
Yeah, for the summer.
Yeah, for the summer. So we've been like really hyped about this, and in fact we're gonna go as far as to like we're thinking about like rereading most of it. or most like of the important
Yeah,
stuff.
I'll have to reread it.
Just so we can like get you guys stuff, and like that way we know exactly what we want to talk about it. So we're really excited, and we hope you guys are too. But yeah, that's about it. So
Yeah, I was thinking that we'd probably split it up by Geese Blue Saga, Grand Line, stuff like that. I know in Amazon sometimes they sell these collector boxes
Oh
and
yeah,
they separate them like that. So I saw that a couple like a month ago.
those are
And I
expensive.
thought I'll definitely buy them during the summer.
Those are really expensive. Those like $170.
Yeah, yeah, but it's definitely cheaper than buying the individual volumes. You know?
Yeah, I was gonna just read it online. I'm thinking of just buying the Shonen Jump subscription and just reading it, but
Yeah.
I might actually just own the books physically myself as well. I'm thinking of ordering them as well, just cause like One Piece is beautiful. It's not the anime or manga that really got me into anime and manga, but it's really when I took a break from it after I watched, I think it was Full Metal Alchemist that really got me into it, but then I took a break after that, and I think One Piece was the thing that got me back into it. So I definitely want to own it. I think owning all of One Piece is definitely something that I would be really happy about. So I'll definitely do that too. But yeah, really excited for it, and we hope you guys like it. We'll be getting that out to you pretty soon, hopefully. So keep your eye out for that. Other than that, that's about it. Thank you for listening, and stay safe out there. We know that we're not in the greatest of times, but we're hoping that our podcast provides a little bit of comfort, and you can use it as white noise. I don't know, when you're sleeping. You can just like listen to us. We're chill.
Yeah. Alright. See you, everyone.
All right, bye guys.